This is the first episode of the podcast. I still don't have a name for it. I just let the people decide as they listen. But my first guest, options trader, famous on Twitter. Sim, how you doing? Thank you for joining.
I'm good. I'm good. Congratulations on your first episode. True honor to be here. And thank you for picking me as one of your guests to be on. I'm super excited.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. So I just want to know more about your journey. So I'll start by asking, when did you start trading and how's it going? I know you're famous for like beating the stereotype of failure in the first year. So I'd love to know how you did that. So that's the main idea of this episode, to just get to know you and see how you're doing in your journey and any advice you could probably give to new traders. So I'll be asking a bunch of questions. You can give answers to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Starting off with my trading journey. So I started in March of 2020. As you know, that had also become a huge thing in the world, right? I live in California and we were going through, a big lockdown during that time. Essentially, everything was closed, right? I was working. I worked at Google. I worked in cybersecurity for the law enforcement division there. And what had initially happened during that time was we were sent home, right? We were sent home on March 16th, I remember. When we were sent home, working from home was really nothing to do after the fact. I knew that there was, things that I had lined up that I wanted to do with all the time that I had. I had some side, jobs that I did as well. I'm a notary public. I'm a firearms instructor, and then I manage some property as well. But during that time, everything was done. I wasn't able to go out to the shooting range during that time because of everything that had happened. Even, notarizing and paperwork and everything that was done like on a mobile standpoint. So although I was busy doing all those things, I had a lot of free time on the side as well. And I believe in a lot of signs, right? And I think that everything kind of happens, or you start things or end things for a reason. So I was watching Netflix one day, and I was watching Tiger King. I really remember this, right? Everyone was talking about the show. I'm like, let me see what this is about. So I started watching that, and as I'm browsing through Instagram, and I see this quote, and the quote says, "A couple of months from now, when this whole thing is over," referring to COVID, either you're gonna be tapped out on all the shows on Netflix, or you're gonna learn something. Like, who do you want to be, right? So I thought that was a sign to me, like, okay, well, what did I want to learn? Didn't I have the time to learn, or told myself I didn't have the time for? And what do I have the time for now? I wanted to learn the market. I wanted to learn how to trade. So I literally turned off Netflix, started watching every type of YouTube video that I could. I probably went through 300 YouTube videos, right, within a week span. I'm talking about all I was doing was trying to learn the market. And I have a very competitive background just against myself. I mean, I'm very disciplined. I come from originally, I grew up working in law enforcement, so that's one thing. But I grew up playing a lot of sports as well. So as an athlete during that time, you develop the. I've always had that. So I was treating trading like a sport. That's exactly the way that I treat it now. I literally
That's a good mentality to start with, honestly, because it is.
Yeah, it's a straight up sport. And although people say, well, do you compete against other people? My main competition is myself, right? I want to wake up more and have more money than I had yesterday before I woke up. Like every single day is so competitive for me in that nature, right? But starting off was really tough. Like options trading or just learning the markets as a whole is essentially learning a new language. And I think a lot of people, they don't see it that way. They see it as, well, it's so difficult, or you need this years of experience, you need a financial background. I claim BS on it because I'm an example of somebody who, number one, I hate math. Right? I don't like numbers, to be completely honest with you. But if I was able to do it with no financial background whatsoever, I think anybody can. And I think that there's a lot of people out there with experience, and it's good to learn from people with experience. But one of the things that I've noticed, and this could be, on Twitter or anywhere else, is everybody always says, well, you don't have enough experience, right? You need to have more experience to be successful in the market. I think those types of people limit you, and I think in this game, and with all of the resources that we have available, you're really limited. And but going back to my journey of where I was at, So I started off with $3,000 and
Mhm.
I built a Robinhood account. I got flagged for PDT because I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what it was when it was giving me the warning. During that time, I was trading some equity and I wasn't making much, right? Like I'd make like $5 or something and I'd be all excited. That was great. And I remember my first trade through equity was, it's called Organogram.
Mhm.
It's OGI. It's actually is the ticker, and they're located in Canada. It's a weed stock. So I saw some news about it, on like Bloomberg, and I was like, oh yeah, this is the move, right? But I didn't make anything off of it. It was like it was pennies to dollars kind of a thing. And I would hold these stocks, and I'm like, well, isn't there any other? How are people making an outrageous amount of money every single day? That's when I
Mhm.
discovered options. So I just and had some friends who had told me about options too. And one of my friends, she's absolutely amazing. She's a nurse in Arizona, and she would talk to me about TA and stuff like that, and I would make no sense to me, right? And I'm like, okay,
Right.
well, she knows this, and she's been doing it. And she took a class, and maybe I should start learning this. So I started. Again, I started watching YouTube videos. This time it was on options. Started reading up everything that I could about options.
Do you remember
And
who you watched?
the craziest part about it, the videos that gave me the best information were the ones with barely any subscribers. When I go back and I try to look for them, they don't even exist anymore.
Anymore, right?
Yeah, which is really crappy because you see all these other ones with like a ton of subscribers and likes and stuff like that, but they're not really
Mhm.
giving much information. It's not any particular like easy to understand information. It's more for people with experience. So, but yeah, so I was reading up on that, and then I started again. Like I said, the $3,000. I took it out of equity, and I think I had like $3,020 or something like that at that point. Started doing options, and I literally, I took my account to 8K, and I thought I knew everything. I was invincible. I mastered the market. This is so easy, right? All these like all that ego BS, right, comes into
Yeah.
play, and I'm telling everyone about it, right? Like everyone knew, like, well, and they're thinking, well, you didn't make like that much, but you did almost triple your account, right?
Mhm.
Telling them all to get into it, right? And but what was I doing? I was getting very lucky gambling. Straight up. Like
Mhm.
I will not bullshit you at all. All I was doing was gambling. I would literally look at a stock like Apple and my TA would be, Apple's gone up a lot today. Let me take some puts on it. It's probably gonna come back down,
Mhm.
right? Like that's just ridiculous. But guess what? It was working and I thought that this is easy. I was doing a lot of like little ER bets here and there, and they would hit, and then I'd make money on them, and it's a good amount of money because you'd get a huge move on the stock during that time. But what didn't I know? Like during that time, I didn't know anything about the Greeks. I didn't know any particular TA fundamentals. None of that. These words didn't even mean anything to me at that time because I knew that I was on the right path, right? Well, I
Right.
got humbled real quick because I blew that 8K. The market will humble you, right? It did, right? I
Yeah.
got smacked, absolutely smacked, right? And that was a lot of money for me at the time. And I was like, damn, like I literally just like let that money go. Like what happened?
Mhm.
Well, that's when I really started watching more videos and stuff on risk management and on capital preservation, on position sizing, on rules, how to set those rules, how to follow those rules, when to
Mhm.
get into plays, technical analysis, patterns, anything and everything that you can imagine, which I should have known before I started. Greeks, now was the
Right.
time for me to learn it. So after getting smacked, I put in another 3K, and this time I had a plan. I had a plan, I had rules, everything was set up for me. After days, it took me a long time to do that, to really have these rules and solidify them, have a good
Yeah.
position sizing during that time, have a proper risk management strategy, to learn TA, being able to identify patterns, look at support and resistance levels, understand what they were. Right. So I went ahead and that took that 3K and I took it to 15K by following these rules that I had, a whole plan that I had, right? Proper
That's
risk management.
discipline right there.
You know what? It was freaking phenomenal, right? But I took it as soon as I went to the 15K, ego
Oh
set.
no.
Well, as soon as the ego sets in, what happens? Rules go out the window. I would have a rule, right? And everything, I'd have everything lined up. But guess what? When that morning bell rang, everything went out the window. It was grind time. I just want to throw in money. Let's just see if it hits, you know? And
Yeah.
I took that 15K that I had hit, my account took a hit because of those bad habits coming back. They
Mhm.
resurfaced. So I got my account back to 11K. And then that was a big wake up because I knew if I went
Yeah.
under 10K, then, that just the psychological level of 10K, I didn't want to lose more, right? So what did I start doing? I started journaling my trades, right? I started journaling and saying, okay, these are all the trades that I have taken. I went back, I wrote down everything.
Mhm.
And I would essentially try to lie to myself, though. I would say, oh, I took this off of, bull flag breakout. No, I took it because there's FOMO, right? Or I took this
Right.
because I saw, a double top and it's going to go to the downside. No, I took it because I was revenge trading it because it didn't pay me before. So
Mhm.
like all of these different things that were going through my mind and happening during that time, I had to be very honest with myself. And I
Yeah.
think that being honest with yourself is very tough. You're your worst critic, right? In a lot of ways. But you can also be your best friend in this. You could be your best critic. You could be your coach. You could be your biggest cheerleader. You could be
Right.
all in one. And I think that really what it took for me is I wanted to be all in one. And I knew that nobody's going to sit there and do it for me. I could follow whoever I wanted. It didn't make a difference. I knew that I was in control of my account during that time. Another thing that I did during that time is I picked up this book. It's called Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. That was something that completely changed me. During that time that I was reading that book, it was like he was speaking to me because all the dumb shit that I was doing, he was talking,
Yeah.
you know. And so what had happened during that time was I brought my account back, over the 15K mark. In a month and a half, I was able to hit six figures at 100K. When I hit that 100K, I knew, okay, this strategy, whatever I'm doing right now, is working for me.